Good evening and welcome. My name is Dr. Akeem Stewart. Welcome to another episode of Black Health Unfiltered, the program where real conversations meet real solutions. Broadcasting live on Love Bay Radio, we dive deep into the stories, struggles, brilliance, and resilience that define Black health across the diaspora. This is a space where nothing is off limits, from mental wellness to medical myths, from community healing to the systems that impact our bodies and our futures. Guided by experts' insight, lived experience, and unfiltered truth, we are here because Black health deserves clarity, power, and a platform. So let's elevate this conversation and reclaim our narrative one episode at a time. So today we have a wonderful opportunity to speak about a really good topic that transcends across all ages and can really be dived into on different facets, but we're going to try our best within the little hour that we do have to discuss it. And we're going to talk about burnout. And we're looking at keeping your flame ablaze for 2026 and trying to avoid burnout and what it can do to you. So today we have the opportunity, or the special opportunity, to speak with Keyanna Vanloo, who is a burnout educator, mentor, and a social worker who helps high achieving women pursue their goals without sacrificing their peace. As a full time case manager, single mom, and entrepreneur, she brings lived experience and practical strategy to conversations around burnout, sustainable success, and nervous system aware achievement. Through her work under the Key Possible brand, Keyanna supports women in building structure, confidence, and clarity so they can grow without burning out. So, welcome, Keyanna.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy Sunday, everybody.
Happy Sunday. So it's a pleasure to have you today. And this wonderful day is actually good weather today, quote unquote, as we can here in Ontario.
As you can.
But I always like to start off my episode asking, how are you doing? How have you been? How's your 2026 looking? Last time we was at the 42nd day in January. So I think we've reached about the 112th day in January right now. So how's it been so far for you?
Honestly, this is the first year where I've broken down my year into quarters.
Hmm.
So I have broken it down each quarter 12 weeks.
Hmm.
So we're almost done the first month, believe it or not.
Hmm.
And it's flying by. I would say I'm doing really well, breaking it down into smaller bite sizes, which is making it more attainable and really more enjoyable.
And that's how you're supposed to do it, at the end of the day. Like, you need to take it step by step. That's one thing I've learned over the past 6 months of my life, that you have to slow down. If not, God will slow you down.
Right.
So, with that being said, and it's perfect that you even started with that, but slowing down, right? We're here to talk about burnout. We're here to talk about what that is and how that is for people, right? It appears in so many different ways, and due to our prior conversation, we have an opportunity to break it down in two facets of what burnout can appear like, and what it is for us environmentally,
Mhm.
and then what it is for us, that the fact that we are doing it is like self-inflicted burnout.
Right.
All right. And I think it's good to define both of them. So let's start first giving an idea of what burnout is. And then we're going to dive into environmentally realizing how we can be triggered within that.
Mhm.
And then like some of the effects that you can see. Then we look at some strategies that we could go forward within that, and then move on and develop as the conversation goes.
Okay. So burnout, let's start with when it actually started. It didn't just start when the term came into being, right?
Mhm.
Especially for us as Black people, burnout actually existed way before they even got a name for it.
Mhm.
And when they got the name for burnout, it was really applied to those in the social services, those who on the ground, hands-on work, more so.
Mhm.
And for us as Black people, we were never really recognized under the term,
Mhm.
but it goes down to exhaustion. It goes down to physically, mentally draining.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, the burnout definition I like to give everybody is when you do not have the capacity to take on tasks. It could be old tasks, it could be new tasks, but more or less you don't have the energy to really deal with the capacity of whatever is being asked of you.
Okay. Yeah. And a little bit of when we look at it, like, it's not only just that aspect, right? We're looking at systemically how things are affecting us to make us drive into burnout, right? We step
Right.
out of the house and things become so different. The four walls of safety that you once had now becomes a giant ecosystem of constant attack and you got to maneuver, you got to code switch, you got to become a different person. And then this impacts you a lot when we speak about weathering, right? And the impact of weathering. We're going to get into that a little bit as further we go in. And I'll talk a little bit about that. You really have to understand that burnout is a place where you have to give yourself grace, but also setting those boundaries is important. But one thing that we do have to remember, setting boundaries does not mean eliminate community,
Right.
where that is how it's been said for the longest while. No, you got to just cut off everybody and be isolated and be by yourself. But community is where strength is, right? It's just setting boundaries within that community itself and knowing who's for you, who isn't for you. So when we go into this, like let's speak on with women, and I can then go to like talk about burnout, how it looks for men, because it appears different for everybody, right? So what do you think about how burnout shows up for women in the workplace or just in the day to day lives, but not from on their doing, but more of the ecosystem that they're around, it environmentally impacted, how the environment impacts them.
Yeah, everyone, I feel like a lot of us know somebody who has experienced burnout. And what it can look like is irritability. Even in doing the simplest of tasks, you will find yourself feeling irritable. You'll
Mhm.
be getting angry, you're frustrated. Everything kind of feels a little bit heavier. Whether it's something, again, you've practiced, if you're in the workplace, it could be your day to day work of stepping into the workplace. The energy feels different.
Mhm.
It's your capacity to take on tasks. When somebody asks you, hey, do you mind? Or hey, can you? Or when you're in a flow of working and somebody interrupts that, how you respond to that may change depending on what season that you're in.
Mhm.
At home, especially for women, we are trained to kind of normalize burnout.
Mhm.
So it could look a little bit different. I like to say in 2026, it looks a lot quieter than it did before, in the sense where a lot of us are internalizing it and thinking in our mind, like, I am feeling tired, but it's normal.
Mhm.
I do feel extremely exhausted, but there's a shame around resting in that regard. So it's just like, as women, it can show up as a lot. It could be as a mom snapping at your kid at the smallest of things. And you know, in the back of your mind, they are just being a kid, but for whatever reason, you don't have the capacity to handle it, whatever the situation is that presents itself.
So how do you decipher accountability within that then? Because the only way you could pull that out is that you have to be accountable, right?
Right.
But what is accountability? Is it being hard on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
or is it being in case of, you know what, like this is not me.
Right.
I need to realize that I am out of my character.
Very good question. It really comes down to understanding what your capacity is and what season that you're in,
Mhm.
right? Um, just as the years go by, like, we have different seasons in our life as adults, as youth. As you grow, you will learn, and your capacity will should be as flexible as you are in your growth.
Mhm.
What a lot of people do and why burnout shows up is because they're experiencing these changes and these shifts, but they are not creating the capacity to really sustain that.
Mhm.
So when it comes to the accountability on how we hold ourselves accountable for that, it would just be understanding self check-ins.
Mhm.
What can you actually take on? Like, before I went on maternity leave and when I came back from maternity leave,
Mhm.
my capacity was now divided between having a child,
Mhm.
which literally reserves a piece of my capacity always, and my workflow. So it's really just understanding, hey, where am I at? What can I take on in terms of the workplace? What are my priorities? It's not a cop out if you are owning what you can do. It is when you are taking on more than you should,
Okay.
which is another symptom of how it can show up in the workplace. When we say yes in fear of not upkeeping
Mhm.
with what the workplace has set on you.
Okay. So you're fighting that, right? You're fighting everything. You're taking on what it is. You may feel that you're back against the wall. You can't change anything different about it. What do you tell that individual, right? Like you're saying, but this is my job. I have to do it. If I do it, they're going to do this to me. And if I don't get this done, this is going to happen. And you start to go through the rabbit hole
Right.
of all of the consequences that could occur if you don't show up,
Right.
right? But you're not taking any to the consequences that could occur by showing up too much. What it does to you. And we speak a little bit about weathering, right? So weathering is one of the cases of a phenomenon that has been linked to the early appearance of dementia in individuals, especially in the Black community. We're looking at it at a space where It's an influx of cortisol in your body. It's constant stress. Stress hormone causes you affects your frontal lobe, and then you get like shrinkage. You get constant shrinkage. This is just me dumbing it down to make it as basic as terms as you could explain to it. What it that does to you, that constant brain shrinkage causes early aging or accelerated aging in your brain. So now you have persons within the black community, 40, 45 years old, going through early signs of dementia, right? 50 years old, going through early signs of dementia or the signs of Alzheimer's. And you're looking at it like, oh, but this person was healthy, this person doing all of this, right? But not realizing that they needed to take the time to avoid
Right.
not being there all the time
Right.
and it be okay. So what do you tell that person like, hey, it is okay for you not to show up sometimes?
Right. And it's if the result or the success of what you are trying to achieve is costing your health, it is
Hmm.
not worth it.
Hmm.
And the symptoms that I named earlier, a lot of times because it's so normalized, we don't see it as something to be cautious of.
Hmm.
What I like to actually break it down into levels. So before burnout, we actually have what's considered a depletion, right?
Hmm.
A capacity depletion. So in terms of showing up, and what I would tell that person is it's okay.
Hmm.
Society will tell you that rest is shameful.
Hmm.
Society will tell you you need to keep going. It's that hustle mentality. And that hustle mentality, as you were speaking on stress, does put a stress on and strain on our body.
I dislike it. That's the island boy in me. If I could take my time, to be honest, I wish I could always be on a beach.
Right.
This is very if it could survive off of coconuts and fish, I would do it. But I can't fish and I can't climb a tree. But yes, he has a mentality of society. You were saying
Right.
yes, he has a mentality.
So I would literally, it has to start with a reframing, right?
Hmm.
Because we've been told for so long. We've even been pictured as women, that strong black woman, that strong character that has to really bear everything. And we've seen people do it time and time again, especially in our community. So in reframing what that looks like, there's a lot to kind of break down in that.
Hmm.
It's why do you feel like when you slow down, like if you are not in the picture, then things will not be successful.
Mm.
And it also speaks to the workplace and the dynamics there. It's where I like to let people know like their value is not tied to their productivity. How much you do in the workplace, how much you get done,
Hmm.
does not value how much you are worth. So especially with the women that I work with and that I talk to in terms of burnout, it's intertwined. They feel like if they don't get their work done on time, if they are asked to do something, they need to produce in order to feel and be valued. That can be at home, that can be at work.
Hmm.
And what I like to work on is reframing that,
Hmm.
right? So we think about the things that are being said in those moments.
Hmm.
Like when you're told, hey, take a break, what are you thinking?
Like you need to step off a bit. Like I don't know. I don't really get tell that a lot. Like you need to take a break. Like I don't hear it. If I do hear it, it's because I did. I could. When I heard that, when I hear it, actually, I know I'm doing too much.
Okay.
Because someone's looking at me and say, okay, you need to like you're doing 7,000 things at one time. Like, just take a break. So like I guess that's for me. My when I hear take a break is like a trigger. Like okay, yeah, I think I need to slow down a little bit.
Right, right.
Hmm.
Especially like high achieving people, like they're constantly going throughout the day. Like I have to actually set alarms and to really remind myself to take a break.
Hmm.
And sometimes when I'm approached with the opportunity to take a break, it's like, okay, I'm going to take a break in about 5 minutes. Let me just finish this thing because I'm tying that value of what I'm getting done, my productivity, into earning a break.
Mm. You see, no, I could just nap anytime. I'm a napper. But no, no, you're very right. No, not to make light of it, but it's true that you try to give yourself like, hey, if I get this done, I can then enjoy this. But really and truly, if it gets done or 5 minutes, no, you take a break or whatever. After it's still the same. Just to take a moment though. So like Kevin may mention that he never thought about the dementia aspect when it came into to stress
Right.
but into burnout, which is true, Kevin. Like it's not always the depression that calls you to carry that way. Is like it really does comes from all different facets when you really look at it. Dementia is one of those diseases that we're constantly learning new things about it. But one thing we can see, especially from the aspect of it being affecting the black community, is that there's a lot. It's not just the physical or the the medical aspect of where you say, oh, someone is just aging. There's so many socioeconomic factors and systemic barriers or systemic influencing factors as well that drives us to that point that we suffer a little bit more. And because we don't speak about a lot of things within the black community as well when it comes to us being feeling unwell or unheard,
Mhm.
or the same thing high achieving, where we're just talking about the society, but we're not even talking about how the culture is, right? You're a man, and so we spoke about women, and you're a man in the house, and you're doing this, you're doing and doing and doing, but you tie your worth, as you said, to how much you can get done. So if you look at your wife one day and you said, I'm tired, I can't do anymore, you start to feel less than really and truly. You think that because is the word is such pain is it of what have you done for me lately, not what have you done for me in total, right? And you start to feel that you could be abandoned or thrown aside or not recognized or valued enough.
Right. Yep.
So it's really a lot. It's very very important that we take that into aspect when it comes to dementia. And as Asante said here, rest is productive for sure, and it's extremely productive. And that's one thing I learned. I'd say in the past 6 months. So like past 6 months, I had surgery. I had a rugby injury,
Right.
so it really stopped me. Like that was the end of my year, more or less. Everything has been focusing on recovery and getting back to where it was since then. But it caused me to really sit down and have to think about a lot of things that I didn't realize were impactful for
Mhm.
me in life, because I had to actually slow down and take a beat.
Right.
All right. And there's a lot of discomfort sitting in within that, because it's not like I can get up, I'm going to do anything. And it was escaping a well, and then my PS5 subscription ran out, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I was like, I'm not paying this ridiculous price for it, right? To have a PS5 subscription. And then I'm not a big TV watcher, so it's not like I'm sitting down and watch a whole bunch of television.
Right.
So I had to really sit down within that discomfort, finding out while still working. But then when there's downtime from work, why is this affecting me? Why am I feeling discomfort for this? Or why does this trigger me so easily? But really and truly, it shouldn't trigger me at all. And that rest allowed me to recuperate far from what burnout was doing. And when I look at it, I was going through, yes, because I was just going through emotions.
Right.
I lost passion in what I was doing. I lost
Mhm.
the want to do a lot of things,
It
right?
happens. It happens in leaks, right?
And you didn't realize it until it's there.
That's it. And what you're speaking of is tending the flame, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
talking about keeping that flame burning.
Mm-hmm.
What you had to do, you had to step back, you had to kind of reflect on how to maintain the flame. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people think that burnout means, if we're using the flame analogy, that your flame is burning out, like it's done. There's no flame at the end of it. It's actually not the case. Burnout is more so your flame is too small to actually like heat
Heat
anything,
anything. Mm-hmm.
right? It's still going and it's doing its very best, but you can't do anything with what's being produced.
How to say, no, you're cooking with gas, but you can't fry chicken wing on with a candle, right? It's gonna keep it so, but like just give our listeners a reminder that you're listening to Black Health Unfiltered on Love Bay Radio, Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. So please subscribe, like, and share. Download our apps from the Apple Store or Google Play. Visit our website. Tap and donate to make sure that we make a contribution. So tap the donate button and make a contribution to make sure that that helps us to continue serving you and our community. And if you have any questions, you can please reach out to us at 437-778-3299. So yes, as you were saying, we cannot fry a chicken wing on a candle wick,
Right. You
right?
can. You gotta find ways to fuel your energy. You gotta find ways to fuel that flame to keep it burning. And
Mhm.
that's the sustainable part, right? To actually prevent yourself from doing burnout. But it's funny that you say the example with the husband and wife. Because what comes to mind is I grew up in a household with my grandmother.
Mhm.
And to her, literally, love language is results. You need to cook, clean, have the chicken out, thawed out, and everything in order to be greeted nicely. And we want to be
Mhm.
greeted nicely, or else you're going to be told you're lazy. You're going to be told all the things that you don't want to hear.
Mhm.
So it's like really looking at how the generations understand burnout and
Mhm.
how the generations really look at productivity. because
Mhm.
burnout is a terminology that's really come through in the last few years. Like if I tell burnout to my grandma's not gonna know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
She's gonna, what, you're tired? And then it's gonna go in, I
I know
worked.
what? It's funny, right? I did have an aunt who told me before, and I have actually before we get to that story. So Kevin, he made it say he struggles with trying to appear strong for the family while rationally knowing that he can't carry the load of mental fall to society, but mental fall to society norms of the hustle. And it's true, like it's a struggle, right? And you gotta. It's a case of where you start to know how to look for community,
Mhm.
right? Because you still want to appear strong for your family, but you can't. You are human, right? So you can't do it on your own. You have to be able to push through, and you need that help with it. So like, I think that when you get to a point where it's like a roadblock, you need that friend, you need that person you could confide in, you need that space, you
I
need that.
disagree.
Why not? So,
Don't wait till you hit the roadblock. We're
but
talking
I
about
don't think you should
prevention,
wait,
right?
right? We talking about prevention,
Right.
but to his point, right? If he's struggling with it, or better yet, okay, let me rephrase it to what you've saying, that which is better. Before you reach that roadblock, then,
Right.
right? You should have that friend, and you should have that support system. You should have that person you can sit down and just level it and say, "Yo, I really don't know how I can get it done." Or like, let me just sit down and talk. Because somebody just talking about it allows you to get these solutions, right? Talking allows you to breathe a little bit and say, you know what, it's not bad, because then you realize you're not the only one,
Right.
right?
Right.
There's a community within everything. So you, today it might be struggling just to get up to go to work, right? Next day it might be struggling to get bills done. Next day it might be struggling to get the car to work. When you look at it, two, three, four, your friends might have the same issue, and you get to sit down and talk about it. Or if you can have the luxury to for a therapist, you speak to a therapist, or
Right.
if you, depending on your religion, one of the elders in your church, or whatever the case may be, who you can have that trust with. But you need to have a conversation,
Right.
because the more we internalize it, the more that we're not going to get from it,
Right.
right? And it's going to just keep that flame low.
Right.
So, coming back to what my aunt was saying, was you saying to your grandmother, she said if you didn't do it with lazy. I remember she was saying before, she would be so upset to see when she get up and see the kids sleeping into about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Like it would just make her so upset, like, oh, lazy, you're not doing anything, and whatever the case is. But when she retired and she slept in for the first time, she looked at herself like, saying, I get it now. There's nothing wrong sleeping in, right? But you see how long it took. Like it took her to retirement
Right.
at 60 something years old
To
before she could
understand.
understand that it's not a push. And there's one thing I like about the generation nowadays. If they're gonna sleep, they're gonna sleep. They're not gonna give up a nap for anybody.
And sleep advocate.
Yeah, I am very much a sleep advocate. Because rest is where the body recovers.
Right.
Doesn't matter how many massages you do, doesn't matter how many saunas you sit down in, steam rooms, put collagen, Botox, micro. It does not. If you don't allow your body to rest, you're not going to be able to put more gas to that flame.
Right.
Rest is very important, but not avoidance, guys. That don't mean as things get hard that you got to go to sleep. Because if you go to sleep for 8 hours and get up after, problem's still gonna be there. The rest is within taking a breather to reevaluate, then to go forward.
Right. You touched on a lot of things actually, like the internalizing.
Mhm.
So when it comes to burnout, there's two types, right? It can be an internal where you are internalizing and that leads to a lot of self-judgment. And that in itself is a mental strain,
Mhm.
right? Just imagine every decision that you're making, you're second guessing yourself. Every time you're going to do something, you are literally creating 10 steps between you and your goal because of the mental strain that you're putting on. That's the internal
Mhm.
part. But there's
Mhm.
also the external, which you also mentioned in terms of like the things you can't control. That could be your car breaking down. That could be your work, your workplace environment just really being as toxic as it may be.
Mhm.
And on a day to day, when you have the capacity, when your cup is full, it may not seem like a lot, but you keep going on. And we're talking about sustaining here. We're talking about for the whole of 2026, from January all the way through
Mhm.
back to December. How are you going to keep that flame burning?
Mm. And then when we look at that aspect now, like you have your environmental aspects, like as you just said, right?
Mhm.
The some of the things you internalize you could control, but you can't control the environment. let's talk about a little bit of strategies. Let's talk about the perspective and where now that okay, I've identified a lot of things that you've mentioned,
Mhm.
right? What can I do to go forward? Like, what can I do to make sure I'm taking the beat and not beating myself up?
Okay. You got to understand your stage that you're in,
Hmm.
what your capacity currently is, where you have the energy to put towards something,
Hmm.
and also set up your boundary on how to respond and structure it accordingly.
Hmm.
So let's take you for an example. When your leg broke, you did not have physical ability to go to the gym,
Mm.
correct? Is that correct?
No, I did not. Oh, for a long time.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, as the months went on, you used to go to the gym, what, 5 times a week?
5 times a
All
week,
right.
sometimes twice a day.
Now, pushing 5 times a week, is it as easy as it was before?
Um, not necessarily.
Right.
It is a little bit more difficult, but like it's habits, right? You got to create the habit again. It's a different stage.
Right.
Hmm.
You're at a different stage.
Hmm.
So, in terms of how do you approach this situation so that you don't burn out, you need to understand your new capacity. You
Hmm.
can't look at it and say, you know what, last year I was in the gym 5 times a week. So now that my leg is better and I can physically do what I need to do at the gym, your body is not ready to do 5 times a week. And
Hmm.
you shouldn't beat yourself up internally about that.
Hmm.
Right. So you need to set up those structures and understand, hey, you know what? Now I have the capacity to maybe go 2 times a week and be okay with that.
Hmm.
And then build from there. You can build capacity. Capacity shrinks, but it can also expand, right? You got to put in those drills, put in the reps. So what I would tell somebody who's facing or to prevent themselves from burning out, so it's that capacity depletion that I was talking about, you need to know what your capacity is to begin with.
Hmm.
Once you know where you're at, you need to adjust your habits to match that.
Hmm.
What a lot of us do is we change seasons and we get to different stages, but we're not actually adjusting our capacity to match that,
Hmm.
right? We are comparing to who we used to be, and especially like when I became a mom, I was always trying to get back to that version of myself,
Hmm.
but that was an unrealistic goal for me. So what I tell anybody is be realistic, be honest with yourself, and it's okay if your capacity doesn't live up to what it used to. You can build on that, but don't beat yourself up on
Oh, you know how hard it is to look at those pictures before and after the gym now? Like, it did take me a while to get there. Like, the first time I started out was twice a week, 3 days a week.
it.
And
Right.
then I slowly got in capacity to 5 days a week, slowly bring the weight up. So, like, within that, I did learn, as I said, having to sit down for these 6 months, learning grace has been huge to give myself the time to breathe. Like, hey, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? You weren't built in a day. It took you 9 months to be here, and then it took you another 30 something years to be who you are now. So you have to really give yourself the time to walk through the echelons of what is life again before you could even be, because you never know, you might want to get back to where you were, but where you're going might be even better than before then,
Right.
right?
And what I'm about to say next might be a little weird, but actually schedule in what your rest looks like.
Mm.
The same way you can schedule in a meeting for work, or if you have to schedule in your gym to hold yourself accountable, schedule in when you are going to slow down and take time or rest for yourself. So I'm going to throw it to you.
Hmm.
When do you rest now? Do you
Oh,
have,
it's my head hit the pillow. I'm there.
see, that's at the end of the day.
No, 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 no. It could be. I hope no one is watching from work. So let me stop myself there. Let's say it's during my lunch hour. But no, no, no. I usually make sure that I get time to sit down and I do things periodically during the day. So I take 2 minutes to do this. I make sure I finish my task, and if I know I have nothing else left on my docket, I set up myself to do a couple things here, a couple things there, but then I will take a beat and then be like, okay, let me just sit down here, keep up my foot up. Maybe watch a show, read something, do a little bit of studying, whatever the case may be, right? But is always not as in the fast pace of what it is. Like, but like I am not getting to the point where I say, oh, like before when I was younger, especially in Cuba, and I got a couple of things we want to get here too as well, a couple of comments online. But when I was in Cuba, coming back home to Barbados and going back, I always tell people like, oh, how are you enjoying your vacation, relaxing? Like, nah, I can sleep on the plane. All right, that was me. I'll sleep on the plane. I'll sleep on the plane. And when I get back to school, I'm exhausted, and I'll have to go through another year, another 9, 10, 9 to 11 months away outside of my country trying to do this career. So like I may not schedule it to that aspect, but I do take it. If I know I'm tired, like if I get up in the morning at 4 o'clock, because I usually get up 4 a.m. every morning, I get up like, you know what? I would love to go to the gym today, but I think I'm gonna need to take a beat in between here to next week. And then that's where it goes. Before we continue, hold that thought. So um as Sandy just said, hustle culture is often rewarded in society and in the workplace, and it's not really sustainable. And that's where grace comes in. And as the society is flawed right now. Having to think so much about um hustle society is so hard on one person because this is what it is, and I think it's just to keep us away from being together, because together as one we get so much done,
Hmm.
right? But everyone's saying that I could do that all by myself, and it's especially in black culture. And I had this conversation today, and we're gonna get into this a little bit, right? Because I don't know why in black culture we push so many different things, especially on black women, right? We tell black women that they are strong, they're great, and they are the most, in my personal opinion, not to anybody else, one of the most magnificent creations that God could put on this earth. But it's not fair. I don't see any other culture telling their women to do what society puts on black women. They have to do everything by themselves. They have to put forward everything by themselves. They have to raise the children, take care of the home. Don't care about this. Don't hold this person accountable. That's not fair. Because when you look at it in the cultures, they're not telling their women to do that. They're protecting their women. They're
Right.
telling women they're supported. They're telling women need to go. They can get this done. They could be this. They could relax. And that hustle culture has plagued, especially our culture.
Hmm.
It has played us because then it thinks men to tell men, oh, we got to do everything, and their worth is only tied to the dollar that they make,
Hmm.
right? Which is not so, because money is such a tangible thing. It comes and it goes like that, right? You could be a millionaire today and be dead broke tomorrow. How many
Yep.
30 for 30s have we seen online? It's so insane. Let me just make sure I don't want to keep. I got to keep with the comments, right? So first off, if you're not listening today, you are listening to Black Health Filter. If you just tuned in on Love Bay Afro Beat Music Talk Radio, please
Hmm.
subscribe, link, like, and share. Download our app from the Apple Store or Google Play. Visit our website and tap the donate button to make a contribution. This helps us continue serving you and our community. And please reach out to us if you have any questions at 437-778-3299. And Kevin also had a couple of things where he said that we're having amazing points here. So thank you, Kevin. And he's realizing his new limits and accepting part of that accepting was that he didn't have to match other people's expectation. He's
Hmm.
still evolving in that. So
Right.
yeah. So you heard about my tangent on what we're doing and influencing our culture so much. That's one of the things. Systemically, that's what is done on top of us, right? And then that just keeps breaking up the community within black culture within itself.
Right. So I will take a moment even to say thank you for having this kind of space and platform for us to even have these kind of conversations. Because I think that is one thing that we as a culture need to do better.
Mm-hmm.
We need to actually address some of what society says we should look like and what we actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be honest about where we are presently, right? So what was mentioned was the hustle culture
Yes.
and how it's praised in the workplace, praised. And there's actually a type of burnout specifically for those who are in the hustle culture. Did you know?
No, I did
Okay,
not.
that's okay. This is where I tie in the high achievers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where burnout doesn't look like what it may look like for someone who's not a high achiever,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense where their energy and their output, they continuously do that. That is their habit. They are used to the hustle. They're used to the going. They're used to their nervous system literally being on high all the time. Like that is their norm,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what the other type of burnout, which we were speaking of, is your system reaches a point where the flame is too small, the capacity is too low to maintain you're doing, to execute.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there are those who, with a small flame, will make it work. Like
Mm-hmm.
they just need a little spark, Those are the high achievers. With that little spark, as long as there's a little heat, they will find ways to continuously function, and that is what they are used to doing.
Mhm.
Where resting literally feels like they are lacking. Where resting feels like they are being they're not useful. Like
Mhm.
they need to be moving, they need to continuously be doing something to feel valued.
Mhm.
That's where hustle culture comes in. Now, not everybody lives under the hustle culture, but what you're doing is you're putting your body into survival mode. What that does is, and a lot of us culturally are used to being in survival mode, are used to the cycle of it. So it's very hard for us to identify it when it does occur because it is so normalized. But what we need to understand is you can still do a lot and be a lot, but understand what your body is telling you,
Mhm.
right? What your capacity is to do something may not be what my capacity is. So, one, in comparing what other people's expectations are of you,
Mhm.
please stop doing that. So, if somebody like your workplace, your job, your friends, if they set an expectation that is out of your capacity, you need to be able to, one, identify that,
Mhm.
and two, set your boundary around that. Be able to speak on
Mhm.
what you can do and where you're willing to take that.
Mhm.
Or else you're going to be putting your energy in places and it's going to deplete you a lot faster. And that constant depletion, like I said, those little leaks is
Mhm.
what's going to lead to burnout. It doesn't just end up when you wake up a morning and you're tired, so you're burnt out. No, it's little steps of depletion. It's those little leaks of energy in the wrong places that lower your capacity and burn you out.
So then you're saying that by the time you realize you're burnt out, is a little bit too late.
Yes.
It's a little bit too late.
Yes.
So one thing we did realize within it is that we, hello. I think one thing we realized within it is that with burnout, um, sorry, I think someone, yeah, sorry. One thing you said is survival mode. Um, survival mode is really a case of like you don't realize what it is. And one thing I would tell people, being within it myself, you tend to suffer from being able to acknowledge achievements. You get the achievement and you just think about the next thing going. It's like, hey, you did well. You got this done, and then you're like, okay, cool. What's the next? Well, okay, let me keep going. Like, let me keep going again. Like, let me do something else. Like, it's a constant continuation that doesn't allow us
Be
to
present.
yeah.
It doesn't.
Hold on one second. I think we still have good audio. I think our feed just stopped for a little bit, but we do have good audio. So yeah. So one, you can't be present within it, right? You can't really understand what is going on. You don't get an opportunity to keep going. Um, I think the issue is when you get in that aspect or in that space, you have to one thing realize is that that's when you start to affect yourself, right? That's when you start to really feel the burden of you doing too much for you
Right.
and not think. So now we get a pivot. Now we start to talk about the self-inflicted aspect of burnout,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is where you know don't realize that you need to say no. You need to stop doing as much as you're doing. You need to say no. You need to keep going. You need to try something different. But a lot of people don't realize that. So what do you don't tell that person in that opportunity or in that space is like, hey, okay, like this is something that you may be doing to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You need to realize what is the effect of that opportunity and what could be affecting you in that
What is it
space,
costing you?
or what is it costing you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And at some we look at. I remember one time I had a workshop. We looked at the cost of empathy, right, and then the cost of showing up. So how do you then talk to that person to help them to recognize that they're being too much, or they're not being too much? Being too much sounds a little bit harsh,
Right.
but they're showing up a little bit too
Right.
much outside of what they are supposed to
Right.
be.
They are operating outside of their capacity,
Hmm.
right? And they need to understand, every one of us needs to understand our capacity. If there's one thing I drill into you today, it is you need to know where you are at and be honest with yourself.
Hmm.
And then those boundaries. those barriers, those what can you take on, what are you willing to take on, and to what capacity.
Mhm.
Saying no is okay. It doesn't make you the bad person. If we're speaking about how society views it, a lot of us are guilted in saying no. A lot of us may feel like I'm not being a good friend if I say no, if I don't show up in certain ways. But
Mhm.
this is where the margin of grace comes in. This is where we need to better understand ourselves and be okay with rest, be okay with saying, this is outside of my capacity. If no is too harsh, another way of saying that is, I don't have the capacity for this today. And that says a lot about you,
Mhm.
right? And one thing I've learned in the 30 something years I've been alive is as I grew older and more mature, understanding what I'm willing to accept in terms of my energy and what I'm willing to give in terms of my energy. And it is okay if I don't share my energy with everybody,
Mm.
right? So when we're looking at the word no, it doesn't have to be no. It could be a not now because your capacity does change. It could be a not today. It can be a it is above my capacity. And that says a lot more about you if you are the type of person that can identify that in yourself.
Okay. And it's really, it's not as easy because one of the things that you feel affected in that opportunity is where you really feel persons thinking that you can't be, right? Like you're not enough for them. They're not there for you anymore. Like you can't go through any, like in the aspect, like you,
But it's not that you can't, it's you're choosing not to.
I get that, right? But like imagine you fall in love obviously at one point with the aspect of, hey, everyone comes to me. I'm the fixer.
Right.
I'm the person, right? But
Right.
and then some people don't appreciate that. So then you get when you get an opportunity to tell someone, hey, you know what? Like I can't do it anymore. The first thing I'm like, oh, you never want to help me. You never want to do anything for me. You this, that, and this. And it's not fair. It really is not fair.
Right.
So I'm not sure like how you could look at someone and say, hey, like if they can't appreciate you in this space where you can't be there for them for that one time,
Hmm.
you you need to reevaluate that relationship
And
and be okay of possibly losing that relationship
right.
because is it worth the cost of who you are in the long run?
Okay. We all have people in our lives that we lean on, right? Those are I call the high achievers, the people that you know they're going to get it done no matter what. The
Hmm.
people that when it comes down to it, you can trust them, you can rely on them to help you fix your problem, to help you talk you through it, to
Hmm.
help you get it right,
Hmm.
right? But what happens is we treat people how to treat us, right? So if you are constantly accepting that and then one day you don't, yeah, I can see how that disruption in a pattern will make someone else upset.
Hmm.
But what are you gaining, right? You are saving your health, you are saving your mental by understanding and setting your boundaries on what your capacity is.
Hmm.
Now, if this is a coworker, okay, it is what it is. If this is a friend, then there should be a push and pull and understanding of when you can and cannot take on,
So yes, and that's very correct.
right? So being that person
Hmm.
who everybody goes to, if you are that type of person, or if you know somebody who is who you always go to, you're asking me what would I tell them, right? Like, how do you stop? How do you slow down? You need to slow down. You need to take a step back and you need to prioritize what you're working on.
Yes, I do agree with that. I do agree with that. And I'm just to apologize to those who may be joining into Black Health Unfiltered today. Having a little bit here of technical difficulties, but we're going to keep going, trying to reconnect our camera here to make sure that you're hearing everything that we're bringing to you. So, within that being said, Ken, I have one question for you. That could be important to look at that, right? If we're looking at redefining the success and ambition in that person, then about create. Actually, no. No, we're talking about this now. How can someone begin creating boundaries without feeling guilty, like or like they're falling behind?
Oh, that's a very good question. So, when it comes to creating your boundaries, like, I don't see why you would feel like you're behind. We spoke about seasons and stages in your life. At every stage and every season, you need to reassess who you are and who you can be. And it is definitely okay to let your ecosystem, your community, the people around you understand and know who you are in that season. We all go through it. For those who start a new job, opened up a new business, for our new moms, for people who have started new friendships, new relationships, it doesn't matter. These are all different stages at which point when you have that shift, those are great opportunities to reset your boundaries or to restate your boundaries if they were never stated before without feeling like I guess the guilt that you're speaking of,
Mhm.
and take away some of that self judgment that you're doing or internalization.
Yeah. But what might want to push back would be there is like everyone there know they're fighting, right? They're fighting to keep those people in their life that they may not be able to see what is valuable to them outside of themselves, right? How do you make them feel okay to know those boundaries are okay? Like if I looked at you and told you one day, like every day say show up, every day bring you a sweetie or a mint, and then one day I was like, you know what, mint's gone up from 25 to 50 cents. 365 days in a year, this is gonna cost me a little bit too much. I might go cut it down to 3 5 days, three days a week. You're still dependent on me for the mint, right? How do you allow that person? How do you allow me? Now telling you I'm going to, I have to change
Mhm.
my. I'm not getting rid of you, but I need to protect me, to protect a little bit, so I could be able to show up for you. How do you allow them, or how do you be able to tell me in that situation it's okay? Like this is how you could approach this, because how approaching those boundaries is really different. Because there's a very thin line between insulting to stating a claim that is extremely hard to setting something gentle enough that people understand that you just need space.
Right. And this is where community becomes a really big part, right? Because not everybody's going to be happy if you are pulling away or they are getting less of you than they were before. So having those people around you who understand, but you yourself need to know why you're setting your boundary and be comfortable with communicating that. There's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with you saying, "Hey, you know what? Those sweeties I've been giving you is going to take a break for a minute." You can phrase it however you want to phrase it.
Hmm.
But I don't see anybody pushing back too tough unless they were really relying on you. Like that was the only thing they had to eat all day long. So they're like, listen, I needed that mint
Hmm.
to survive. Okay, well, in the capacity that you have now, how can I support you? This is what I can do. Does that align?
Hmm.
Right? It's conversations. And I feel like a lot of times we're afraid of the conversation because we've already had the conversation in our head or we've internalized what we feel the pushback may be from someone else that we are helping. But I want to remind everybody help is not what I think you need. Help is you actually letting me know what you need, right? If I do something, if I'm bringing you that sweetie, why am I bringing you that sweetie? Am I
Hmm.
bringing the mint to you because I thought I was being nice and giving you the mint and you now got into the habit of me getting it, so now you want to receive it? Or was it you coming to me and saying, hey, Keyanna, this is what's going on XYZ elemental P. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Will a mint help? Yeah, perfect. I'll bring you a mint every day until you're better, type of thing.
Hmm.
Where you actually agreed to the help that I'm giving
Hmm.
because now it's for you.
Yeah.
These are all things like conversation wise, we need to understand what help looks like before we give it. And in our mind, when we're communicating with other people, as long as you're doing it in a gentle way, because you're asking how do you do it without coming off as a jerk,
Hmm. Pretty much, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can protect yourself, protect your peace and your energy,
Hmm.
and still respect how someone else feels.
Yeah.
Exactly how I just delivered it to you. Hey, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm sorry I couldn't get the mint. Can I help you in another way?
Yeah, and that's great. So we have a couple of things here online. As again, sorry guys, we have a little bit of visual issues for today, but our audio is fine, so we keep it. It's like a real podcast today. And it's where we, actually, if I wanted to record it in my
I don't know
pajamas, it'd been good, right? But no,
already.
what you could follow us with the sultry sounds of the voice of Akeem and Keyanna here on the ones and twos from Love Bay Radio. We're here with all Black Help on Fiddle for those who are joining in on Love Bay Afro Beat Music Talk Radio. Please subscribe, like, and share. Download our apps from the Apple App Store and or Google Play. Visit our website and tap the donate button to make a contribution. This helps us continue serving you and our community. Please reach out to us if you have any questions at 437-778-3299. And now we're coming on to the home stretch of our wonderful episode. We had a lot of good conversation. A couple things had said by Kevin here that knowing your capacity is huge, and he's agreeing with us. Like choosing appropriate times to protect yourself is very important. Him and his 52 years, the hardest part was resetting those boundaries, and found that harder to do with friends and family, especially the older generation. As it's foreign to them, so they tend not to ask that. And this is so true. This is true.
Thank you, Kevin.
Because setting boundaries with the older generation is very, very hard. It is extremely hard because when people look at you and they look at and try to say, that you first thing want to say you're rude if you want to get box or something like that, but really and truly just saying, hey, listen, I'm not 12 anymore.
Oh
I'm
my
a grown
gosh.
man or a grown woman. I
Listen,
make my own decisions. I have an Amazon subscription. I pay on my own.
just the thought of balancing my family's perceptions and judgments takes up so much mental capacity, guys. That in itself is probably why you're burning out.
Mhm.
Like, just you ever just show up somewhere at a family function and you're always wondering, or you know in the back of your mind, hey, Auntie Joan is gonna say this about my shoes, and oh my gosh, if I bring this person, so and so is gonna say this. All of these are things that we carry, I like to say, in the background,
Mhm.
right? Same with moms. Like me sitting here, though as present as I can be with you, I'm still thinking about in the background, what am I going to cook for dinner,
Mhm.
right? All of these add or take away from our capacity. So when you're trying to understand how to address your family or how to manage, you can only manage what's in your control, first off.
Mhm.
And what you can control is literally what you're putting on in the background. Those thoughts before it even occurs, which if it may or may not occur, it's not something we can control. So
Yeah.
let go of that thought. Have the thought and let it go.
Exactly.
Don't let it worry you. Don't dive
Don't
into that hole. Don't take the second
don't
step
care
in
what
that thought.
Auntie Faith said because Auntie Faith got as much as laundry as you do. Right? It's no, it can really thing, but you know what? When you have persons within your space that you respect, look up to, you hold them to a higher card, right? You still fight to make sure you're constantly pleasing them within their eye.
Right.
But like when we get to a stage where we understand that we are human, right?
And it's
And
not all about our performance.
it's not all about performance. Perfection is a thought that we will constantly chase and most likely may never achieve, even though we may become masters of the skill that we're trying to get to. You have to give yourself the grace and understanding that, hey, it might not look like this for you. You may not understand, but it looks like that for me. Well, I do say this and I preface when and all that. Like when you're setting these boundaries, guys, do not diminish your community. And we made mention to this earlier, right? That we can't do it all on our own. We cannot, right? Jesus had disciples to help him spread the word and minister. Like all there's and if he's one of, and for those who are Christian, right, he's the one of true perfection. Who are you to say that you could be any different, right? Or who are you to try to do it any different? It's important why we supposed to come together and work together to achieve certain things. And one of those things is keeping your health, right? One of those things avoiding those the mental dimension. One of those things are talking about the mentalities or the mental health aspects of what to really not have to swallow and have to burden those things on your own. Um, one of the dynamics is really making sure you have that circle you can trust.
Yeah, that space where you can relieve pressure.
Yeah, and knowing that by me talking to you, I'm not loading my pressure onto you,
Right.
right? Because you talk about capacity,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can't just go to any and everybody. Like if I had a friend that every day come to me and nothing can be going right, it could be a good day, it's a bad day. It could be sun could be shining, it could be perfect degrees outside.
Something's wrong with them.
Something wrong with that.
Mhm.
Like that negativity is not something that can be false of us. We're not supposed to be that negative,
Right.
right? It's supposed to really be able to to walk through this. It's supposed to be a pathway that we could walk through, but pathway is not a singular step, right? It's wide enough to carry those with you and carry them above with you and whatnot. So one, we're not coming to a close, but we're actually in the last stress. Time really does pass when it comes on. We're having a good conversation, right?
Time flies when you're having fun.
All right. So let's look at a couple practical takeaways, right? So how can listeners evaluate whether their current goals align with their actual capacity in this season of life?
Very good question. I am actually creating a test so people can understand what type of burnout they may be experiencing depending on what stage they're at in their life. And what that does is it breaks down the types of burnout. It breaks down your current activities and if it is equating to burnout. And as I said earlier, what makes burnout is the sustained pressure and stress on your system over time. It doesn't just happen overnight. It does start with the capacity depletion.
Mm-hmm.
What was your question?
We're still here. How can now you align those current goals with
Right.
your capacity?
So, whatever your current goals are, reassess them from the person you are right now. Don't assess them as the person you want to be in the future. A lot of us are futuristic thinkers, are high achievers, are thinking, I'm going to be this person, so I'm going to act as that person now. I am one of those people. But when you are creating your goals in terms of your capacity, you need to be realistic on what you can manage,
Mhm.
right? You may want to go to the gym 5 times a week, but do you have the time in between your kids' activities, your work, your church attending, all your extracurriculars to do that, right? So, whatever your goals are, break them down in terms of what you want to do. And then once you set that goal, be honest with how realistic is it to who you are right now, right?
Mhm. And lastly, if someone right now is listening and feel close to burnout, what is one small shift that they can make this week to protect their energy?
I would say set one boundary,
Hmm.
and to hold yourself accountable for that boundary, tell somebody in your community, tell someone in your inner circle, tell someone in your circle of care, tell somebody else, tell your social media, however it is, and stick to it. Stick to it for at least, for the rest of the quarter. So this quarter is 12 weeks, so until March,
Mm.
right? And practice that.
Okay. And it's 1% better every day, right? Like you don't need to get all of it done in one shot.
Right.
All right, 1% to 2% better than every
Right.
day. We were saying that, discussing it last week with Jamila. We were talking about fitness, right? The same thing, same aspect. We were thinking one rep is good for your body today. Like, think of this as mental reps, all right, to keep
Mhm.
that flame blowing down.
Tend to it. Tend to it. Don't smother it in too much oil. Don't smoke it out. Like flames need oxygen, right,
Mm,
to keep the burn going.
mm-hmm.
So control it.
All right. So,
Control the input of it, not the flame itself.
all right. So I'll ask you today then, where can listeners connect with you and learn more about the work you do through Keep Possible?
Okay, I can be found on my Instagram page at key.possible
Hmm.
for those who want more information, who are seeking. Right now, I'm in a stage of just building the community.
Okay,
Right?
so you can reach out. That's key.possible, key as in KEY dot possible. All
Yes.
right, on Instagram, they can reach out to you. So, and I think we have a little bit more to answer this question. And I usually answer all my guests this question. It's pretty loaded, but I'm going to ask you. So, Keyanna of today, you have the opportunity to speak to 16-year-old Keyanna. What will you tell her?
Mm. I would let my 16-year-old self know that it's not you, it's just
Mm,
not built for you, right? Um, that a lot of what you are going to go through can possibly be explained by the structure that is not there to support you. Yeah, yeah. My 16-year-old self, till now, I internalized a lot. I blamed myself a lot for a lot of things
mhm,
that were out of my control.
mhm,
And in that, I burnt out really quickly. Didn't know it was burnout at the time, but it also limited my capacity.
mhm.
and what I thought I could do,
Mm.
right? Because I could have definitely done more, but I only did what I thought I could do simply because the structures around me were not built to sustain. Make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're talking to yourself, so I think you understand. But give you the opportunity to really reflect on where you've come from then to now, right? To give the opportunity to grow. So thank you so much, Kiana, for being here. Thank you so much. And so as we do that today, that brings us to the end of another episode of Black Health Unfiltered on Love Bay Radio, where truth, knowledge, and community come together. Thank you for joining us in these unfiltered conversations that challenge, uplift, and empower. Remember, your health is your power, your story is your strength, and your voice matter in every space you enter or occupy. Stay connected, stay informed, and stay committed to your wellness journey. Until next time, keep reclaiming your narrative and protecting your peace. My name is Dr. Akeem Stewart, and I'll see you next week.